Nice forge. Thanks, I made it myself, she chuckles. I'm particularly fond of the heat wards, not just on account of the comfort, keeps the place from going up in flames, barring anything unusual at the thought after. She frowns and drops into silence. After the Venom Citadel? After the Venom Citadel. I have a forge of my own if you'd like to relocate. It's significantly larger and provides a much better view. Oh wow, Binder. First you compliment my forge and you turn around and tell me yours is bigger. You got a real way with words. I'm happy where I am, thanks. Okay. Who are you? You sought me out, I assumed you knew already. Or do you make a habit of walking into strangers' houses? I do make a habit of that. You'd be surprised! It's me. It's me, alright. I recognize myself, guys. It's what we do. I'm called Lycentia. I know my sigils, but mostly I'm a crafter. They keep me around for odd jobs, fixing tools, repairing armor, and generally trying to keep Halfgate from falling into the stone sea. Are you a sage? Is anyone anymore? I heard the school burned up. Surprised you took notice, Lycentia. Here is a former sage? It's not that she ever officially left. It's more she got tired of life in the Citadel and never came back. So she's a former sage. I studied among the sages once, years ago. Worked for the royalty of Azure for a while after that. Nice work until Karen arrived. You going to persecute me? She looks you over. Not today. Then let me ask again, why are you here? I take it you know me. Does anybody not? Spires don't exactly light up like the sun every day. I need you to examine my friend Barrick. This one, I assume. He's pointy. Her gaze wanders around Barrick's assortment of sharp edges.
Damn it, Fatebinder, why can't you leave this be?
Leave what be? Currently, he's pretty bad at climbing, sneaking, swimming, and using the privy unassisted. I'd like you to address that.
Fatebinder, you know as well as I that Tunon forbade this. I cannot be complicit.
I promise you that it will be for the best, friend. Let me deal with the legal ramifications.
I have little confidence that Tunon will see it the same way, or that you will be able to shield me from his wrath.
I assume that you want to come out with all your bits regardless, right? Then hold still and quiet down. Before anything else, I need to ask you a few questions. What manner of questions? Ask away. I won't ask anything political or tactical, only matters personal. Hardly reassuring. First, have you ever engaged in sexual congress?
Oh my.
What? I don't... How can that... That can't be relevant, Barrick sputters. He doesn't understand the first thing about mystic sympathy, does he? The Smiths frown and looks to you. I'm gonna answer that. It's important, Barrick, particularly in the case of possible convergence of arcane energies, to rule out resonant adulteration. I suppose that sounds reasonable? The armor has prevented anything from happening recently, regardless of whether or not I wanted it to. Before that, well, the Legion is... I spent a... People I cared for deeply. We are the pride of the North, strong and beautiful, he creaks quietly. And that's all I shall speak of it. I have never passed time with a mage, or Archon, Oathbound, Beastwoman, or anything else unusual. Nothing unusual. I've always heard that there's a special bond between a disfavored officer and their subordinates. Is there anything you are unwilling to soil with your perversion, witch? You wore forge-bound armor during the conquest, correct? The smith nods. And prior to it. Was it sigil woven, enchanted against harm? I do not believe so. It was iron. Have you had sigils of any kind branded into your skin? I bear the mark of the disfavored and nothing else. The mark of the disfavored? The general sigil, or rather what of it the Overlord's decree allows. Many members of the Legion scar themselves with it, binding their loyalty into their flesh and blood. It marks us family. I've heard it said that Greven Ash protects. The sage had no direct knowledge of the Archon of War's ability, but there were many, many theories. I don't suppose you can provide any concrete information. You ask me to reveal the great general's secrets to a mage? That is too much. Archon Ash shares a strong connection with his soldiers that allows him to take on some of their harm while also sharing in their experience. Fatebinder, its gasp contains anger and disbelief in equal measure. And you do not need repairs or maintenance on the armor, I presume. Aside from oiling it and filling down the pointier bits, no. Wait, how do you know that? Metal grinds quietly. The smith stares at Barik in a thoughtful silence before retrieving from the forge a long bar of iron, its hand glowing red from the heat. She holds it out to you. Take it. Next, you'll want to stick that into him, through his armor. It's going to hurt regardless, but I suspect quicker would be better. She leans towards you, lowering her voice. Stab Barik. Howling in agony, Barik staggers backward, gasping at his side. The smell of burnt flesh hits your nostril a moment later. Reaching down, Lysintha grabs the iron rod and tugs it from Barik's side, eliciting another scream of pain. She takes a step back as his gauntlet swings out in the wild attempt to backhand her. Fucking shit on a hill-starred beast, mother of asses. Ah! What in the great general's name, woman? It'll be okay, Barik. You faced worse. A hiss issues forth from within his helmet. I suppose that's true, though usually with a bit more warning. He twists his torso in an attempt to get a look at the wound. Amazing! The smith holds up the sizzling metal prod, drawing a sigil in the air with her free hand. Examine the wound. You bend close to the wound, but Barik's hand is clamped over the hole in his side, obscuring your view. I need to see the injury, Barik. With slow reluctance, Barik moves his gauntlet hand from the hole in his side. You peer through the hole in the oxidized bronze and iron shell, willing yourself to ignore the mixing smells of cooked meat and fetid human waste. You see the ragged, oozing flesh beneath, a gasping red cavity pulsing in time with Barik's labored breath. Even as you watch, the wound seems to close, bronze-colored skin knitting together at the edges like a slowly closing mouth. It's not merely the skin, however. Barik's armor cage slowly shifts and flows, incrementally reducing the aperture. Are you seeing this too? The armor is also healing? His armor seems to be healing just like his flesh. Exactly, in the edges. If she's making any attempt to hide her excitement, she's feigning spectacularly. Your armor and flesh heal as one. Is that a standard property among the disfavored? She strengthens, peering into Barik's mismatched eyes. No, not to my knowledge. If he and his armor heal as one, they're likely mystically bound together. Indeed, Tunon likes them smart, I take it. The question remains, though, why does this happen? She smiles appreciatively at you. I have a working theory, but what I can't make out is what differentiates you from other disfavored who served in the Blade Grave. Maybe it's some trick of the blood, maybe it's your connection to the Fatebinder, maybe something else. But I barely knew the Fatebinder prior to rendering as well. There's a lot we don't understand about how the world works. Kairos' strictures against literacy and inquiry doesn't actually help. She glances at you. I'm not going to turn you in. I appreciate that, Fatebinder. Before I can suggest a solution, sentinels stand outskirts. Oh, interesting. I'll need a sample of alloyed iron and bronze from the site of your entrapment. About this much should do. She holds her open arm about 6 inches apart. We'll get you the sample. Then I await your return. She turns from you, peering thoughtfully into her slack tub and the iron rod within. Okay. That was interesting. That was pretty cool, guys. I like that. Okay. We have to go back all the way down to here. Let's go. Okay. Another bronze dagger. Save.
Sorry, I can't.
All these maps are the same, by the way, I noticed. All these type of maps were like, it's not really a super important place, and it's more like a random place you need to do for like a quick quest or something. They all resemble the same thing, or almost all. The main difference with this one versus the others is this one has like a wall up to it. But overall, it's mainly empty, right? Oh, it has this in the middle too. So this one is slightly different than the others, but it has the same shape. Bronze war mace. Man, I'm so pumped to be playing Pillars. So pumped. Oh, the Scarlet Chorus. Crimson flashes among the torn terrain of the Blade Grave as a gang emerges from the landscape around you. The hardened man and woman with well-weathered skin and narrow eyes, piecemeal leather armor graced with nose of bronze. Careless Spark. Fatebinder, so nice of you to finally show up. A woman steps forward, grinning at you with small, uneven teeth, and wrapped tightly in the fur and leathers of a blood chanter. A tingly mass of sooty, wind-blown air drapes her shoulders, and her large eyes scrutinize you hungrily. Beautiful scenery, no? Truly displays the indiscriminate artistry of our overlord. Am I supposed to know who you are? Name's Careless Spark. Ridiculous, you're telling yourself, but I think it suits. Gets to the core in a way the modern name never did. How did you know I'd be here? Think we don't keep tabs on Athgate? It's on Cacophony's doorstep. Get on with it and tell me what you want. Aside from revisiting on you what you did to the censor, her lip twitches. I don't expect you're willing to sell the Ironclad's service to us. The Archon of Secrets would be wildly, ridiculously grateful to have a personal audience with him. I think that I speak for both Beric and myself when I tell you we'd sooner see him dead than in the hands of the voices. I thought it might come to this in the end. Let's see if you live up to your legend. She sighs and F's her staff as her gang moves to attack. Oh, please do. But Beric, attack him, please.
We'll break.
And please. Shit. Why am I in melee?
Nobody saw that, right?
Okay. Come on, bro, do it.
This is useless. I should try something else. This is embarrassing.
Man, they're really weak.
This is useless.
She slowed down? Yeah, look at that,
something
guys.
else.
Holy shit, we wreck him. Another game of Crimson Corpse made of trespassers upon a blade grave. Let us claim what brought us here, he sighs. I mean, Barry, you shouldn't complain, bro. We've got some pretty good shit. Also, I can't loot that one for some reason. Oh.
Sorry, I can't.
Didn't have the icon on it, but I could do it. Weird. Heavy bronze ridge helm.
Can't do that.
Will this do? It is nigh the size of a kite shield. You have your rock. Let us leave this place.
Something bothering you, Barrick?
My haste falls entirely within the bounds of reasonable
Oh, I
caution.
clicked on Wadi Uri.
The blade grave bears its name for more than just the sharp stones. I have repeatedly asked you to leave this be, yet you persist. Do you think that you act in my interest? Do you think you know better than I where my interest lies?
Barrick, I just want to help. Why are you so resistant to it?
There was no ambiguity in the Archon of Justice's ruling.
Tunon's ruling was unjust.
The Overlord anointed Tunon the Archon of Justice. How can he be unjust?
Peering at the ground for several seconds, Barrick says nothing and then turns his attention back to you.
This place haunts me, Fatebinder. These walls, these lands, they were hard ones, but they possessed an austere beauty. The general saw them for what they were. Lands well worth fighting for. The winds that day, they swept everything aside. They tumbled tearsmen and livestock like children's playthings. The dust choked our mouths and eyes. Trees appeared as if by magic, only to be smashed into splinters against stones. And those splinters cut like knives.
Go on.
We were no fools. We knew what had fallen upon us, and we took cover as best our iron shields and the general's protection allowed. Yet the wind tore us away, one by one. Some silent, some screaming. Now only I remain. In this state.
His gauntlet rings against his breast, cutting off any possible response.
Take the metal to your smith, or do not. There's nothing further to be said. Let us leave.
Dude, we will bring it to the smith. Are you kidding? Of course we will. I'm not letting this go, bro.
Can't do that.
We're removing this armor, and that's only because I like you as a character, but also because I want to equip you other pieces of armor other than this one. And I can't because you're stuck in this. Go back there. You're back. Did you secure the alloy? Give it here. She opens her palm and regards you with an enthused grin. Give it a sample here. Oh, fantastic. She accepts the alloy and placed it on her anvil. Mumbling, she traces her fingers in the air, forming a series of sigils. With rapt attention, Barrick watches the smith move about the sample, examining it from several angles. He says nothing, though when the faceplate of his helm shifts towards you, there's accusation in his eyes. A few other thoughtful sounds follow as she continues her examination. A revealing cantrip and some aimless grunting. Oh, come on, I could have managed this. This will do, this will most certainly do. She straightens, nodding vigorously. Licentia brings her hands together again in a single sharp clap. It's going to take me a little time to work out the rock's properties, but this is a promising start. I assume that you will be stabbing it with a hot iron rod as well. Of course not, don't be ridiculous. Of course not. His armor grinds against itself with a growl. What are you worried about? Doesn't Graven Ash protect? I'm not in the mood, Water Witch. Do let me know when you are in the mood. I have plans for the occasion. Pull up a stool or crate and make yourselves at home. This shouldn't take too long. A few hours pass as Licentia bombards the symbol from the Blade Grave with a combination of hammering and spellwork. She heats it, submerges it in water, shapes it, reads it in lightning, and causes it to levitate in the air. Eventually, she pauses, studying the metal and tapping her chin. Find anything? I'd sure as stones say I did. The alloy absorbs and retains mystical energy, specifically in the form of magical effects. She grins. In theory, a weapon crafted of it could retain its enchantment for decades at least, maybe longer. What does this mean for Barrick? It means your curiosity is sated. It means we can continue on our true mission and forget this heretical quest. You live your entire life in service to Graven Ash and the Overlord. The added burden of this armor is ridiculous. As it should be. I don't suffer this armor because it is just. I suffer it because it is Kairos' will and I am Kairos' servant, as you have often claimed to be. Unfortunately, separating Barrick from the armor may not be so easy as one imagines. Perhaps if I'd gotten to him immediately after the edict. As is, Barrick is as alloyed with his armor as the iron is with the bronze. She gestures towards the symbol. Simply put, Ash's abilities to shield his soldiers has spread to the armor, likely due to the edict's power. Each wound taken by soldier and armor are one, and their heal is one, with flesh and metal fusing together. She intertwines her fingers. So long as Barrick remains under the Archon of War's power, he remains in the armor. The longer he remains in his armor, the more it will become an interactable part of him. Can we remove the Aegis? Short of the death of the Graven Ash, or him rescinding his patronage over Barrick, I see no way to free Barrick from the Archon's power.
Neither is an acceptable solution. This shell, onerous though it may be, protects me and serves you. Without the great general or the disfavored, I have no purpose.
There's always protecting me. There's purpose in that.
Attempt to harm General Ash in my name, Fatebinder, and this arrangement shall swiftly end.
Thank you, Licentia. Please keep searching for a better way. My pleasure, Fatebinder. If I uncover anything of value, I'll dispatch a bird immediately. Okay, so there's nothing we can do about it right now. Greetings, Shindo 7. You are correct. There are spires all across Tyranny. The exact distribution of these monuments fuels all sorts of debate and speculation, but two facts seem commonplace. Most spires are built near old walls. Your mountain spire is a notable exception, and nearly every culture that predated Kairos has some local myth to explain the builders of these spires. I believe the Tearsmen cite the Older Realm as their local name for the Spire Old Walls architects, but nobody knows for sure. And of course, where Kairos has brought proper civilization, the origin of the spires simply isn't discussed in good company. Here's what I think you need to know. First, the spire behave as arcane lodestone. There is constant field of magical strength around the spire. If you imagine a mystic sea resting atop our world, the spire seems to spin and churn this magic. Creating a spell cast with even modest effort will materialize with powerful results. Second, and I'd say most tellingly, Kairos has laws against entering the old walls, but there are no laws against the spire. You could infer from this that means Kairos has no issue with the lay folks messing with the spires, but wishes to keep us safe from the old walls. Or you could think like an overlord and know that if you place a rule against something, you make it forbidden and desirable. Now, I find it telling that Kairos forbids the always that leads to the spire, but does not paint a target on the spires themselves. That makes a world of sense. So like he prevents people from going into the old wall, so people will go into it, and the fact that the spires are of nobody's concern means that they're not interesting, right? So people don't care about them. So he's doing the opposite of what he wants on purpose. So essentially he wants people not to go to the spire, and he doesn't care about the old walls. Last but not least, as a young Fatebinder, I once had to oversee the case of a man who had built a shrine to Kairos around the base of a spire in the far southeast. I could find no evidence of falsity or slander. His shrine was a most reverent and loving tribute as I've ever seen. At one point though, this man claimed that he had evidence that Kairos was here back in -50. He had merely uttered those words and my senior binder swung the axe then and there. Being the new god at the court, I said nothing, but I have long wondered why such a comment should require death instead of the traditional removal of the tongue. So Kairos has been here for a long time. Long time. Inquire about edicts and their nature. Dear Miotis, thank you for hearing me out. I have more questions than I have ink, but let's start with the discussion of Kairos' edict. I've lived under proclaimed and resolved edicts, which makes me far more knowledgeable than the layperson on the subject, and yet still I know so little. Oh man, this is... The mystery thickens. Okay, well that leaves only one quest, guys. You only have one more quest to do. And it's to go all the way to here, the Shattered Bastion. Oh, that's not right. We have the Ashwell as well. Let's go to the Shattered Bastion. Crouched in the southern mountains of the Bastard Tier, these ruins are all that remains of a fortified estate that ended up perfectly positioned to serve as a second line of defense for the Tiers. If Fort Threshold fell, it might have held for spans had it not been for arcane might of the Archon of Stone. 4 days. Along the road, you cross paths with a trio of Tiersmen clad in the ragged remnants of the noble fighter. Tank Ted, thank you so much for that host! Welcome everybody watching this Tank Ted. You guys are amazing. Love you guys. If there's a mod in chat, is it possible to have a caster comment for the wonderful Tainted Rumbler, please? That would be great. They appear haggard, hands blemished with dirt. Faces sunburnt and peeling. Their guard has been reduced to 2 men in dented bronze, each sporting mangy beard and visible exhaustion. One of the Tiersmen notes your banner and hails you. With grim stoicism, the woman explains that she, her husband, and her sister traveled from their home towards the Bastard City to bend the knee to the Archon of Justice and swear eternal fealty to the Overlord's glorious rule. Unfortunately, they've been harried incessantly by highwaymen and Scarlet Chorus Raider alike, and fear they might not live to see their destination. Speak with them. Your weapon remains sheathed even as you demand the refugees attend your authority as a Feindbinder of Tunon. Though the woman matches your gaze with steady resolve, the remainder of the quintet exchange nervous glances amongst them. Question them. Via a brief, largely uncontested interrogation. Hey, Andu, thank you so much, man. Super awesome. You learn that these 3 individuals are members of the old aristocracy of Sunder. They traveled to Stalwart after their homeland's destruction, but the Edict of Storm has driven them north again. Having lost very nearly everything short of their life, they finally accepted the inevitability of Kairos' control of the Tiers and home to find a place within the new order. I can escort them. The group is hesitant to accept the terrifying honor of the personal escort of a Fatebinder, but they don't resist. They don't resist your insistence. You lead them to the Bastard City and to the court of Tunon, Archon of Justice, who presides over the 3 nobles as they swear their loyalty and service to the Empire of the Overlord. After the brief ceremony, one of the noble approaches you and displays their appreciation in the form of a small gift. So I got rep with Leighton's Crossing, I got rep with Tunon, and I got rep with the Stone Sea Villagers. And I got this. Sunder's Seal. Stone Skin, plus 3 armor and immunity to petrify. Interesting. Salutations, Shino 7. It is difficult to separate fact from superstition when it comes to edict, as it seems only Kairos knows how it all works. The rest of us are left to live in fear and ponder it all. Kairos edicts are a sort of magic above and beyond even the Archons. I dare say the edicts are stronger than Kairos, as there's no evidence Kairos can willingly stop an edict once it's set into motion, which is, in part, why Kairos' edicts seem to have an until or unless clause in their wording. I know the edict, as powerful as it is, requires a human voice to complete the casting. Thus, the Overlord, as people like you, proclaim edict edicts cast far from the Imperial throne. The magic is Kairos' magic, but the human voice is the final carrier or trigger to complete the magic phenomenon. And here's what's most fascinating, at least as far as you're